In this class, we discuss the last topic of microeconomics, which is the theory of the firm. The theory of the firm is a branch of microeconomics, but it discusses or examines different ways of the firms, not individual, and those firms within an industry may be structured or seeks to derive lessons from these alternative structures. Sometimes we also call it is the types of markets. And understand the difference between perfect and imperfect markets is our first issue to share. First of all, we highlight what is perfect market. Perfect market, just simple word, is the perfect. Under what conditions the market is perfect? First, large numbers of customers and suppliers. So here we have not just one or two suppliers or customers in the market. We have uncounted numbers of suppliers and customers in the market, and for either side, no matter it's supplier side or the customer side, no one have the power to dominate the market. It means they have no power to influence the price of the products selling in the market. The second point under perfect market conditions, or the assumptions behind it, is the products or services sold by all suppliers are identical. That means, for example, like candy, if shop A is selling candy, then shop B, shop C, other shops selling the same candy, under this perfect market condition. Third, there's perfect information. What does it mean? It means that everyone in the market, no matter if the supplier or he is the customer, they got the information instantly without any interruptions, and no one has the insider information about the prices, about the quantity of the products supplied. So there is perfect information. The information exchanged instantly to every participant in the markets. The final point here under perfect market condition is no barriers to entry or exit from the market. That means if you say, for example, an individual would like to go into the market to sell your product, the identical product as your competitor, and you just go in, okay? There's no barriers, no legislation or restrictions to limit your access into the market. So here are the conditions under these perfect market assumptions. But as I said, it's perfect, it's ideal case. And what's the implication of perfect market? Under the perfect market, it assumes all perfect conditions are here, so an equilibrium is only likely to happen in the perfect market. For example, if there is any imperfect information, maybe some customer paying more than the others, then it's not an equilibrium in the market. So under the perfect market conditions, equilibrium is likely to happen. If any of the factors above do not hold true, even only one, say the perfect information, if it cannot hold true, the market is described as imperfect. And in the real world, most markets are imperfect because we cannot have the same information circulated through the market and all the participants got the information at the same time. We cannot have all the products cannot have the identical features in different suppliers. So it's very hard to find a perfect market in real world. Then we discuss about the imperfect markets. There are three forms or specific forms of imperfect markets. First, monopolies. Next, oligopolies. And the third one is monopolistic competition. Let's go through them one by one. the monopoly. Monopolies occur when one company controls all or nearly all of the market for a particular product or service and no major competitors. It is often caused by government legislation or high barriers to entry for the market. So here we just simply explain the definition of monopolies. One company, okay, here is the first point. Only one company in the market to control all or nearly all of the market for a particular product or service. So it supplies a product or services to the market only by one company. And no major competitor. The second point, no major competitors. And third one is mainly by government legislation or high barriers to entry for the market. So that means if you are a new entrant to go into this particular market, it's quite hard for you to go into it because maybe restricted by the government's legislation, or the barriers to entry for the market is very high. For example, you have a lot of investment, you have a lot of money to invest in the market, then it's not justified to do it, or the payback period is too long for any other new entrants to go into the market. So here is the definition for monopoly and the key features of monopoly. First, only one major supplier in the market. Okay, as we discussed before, only one supplier in the market, and you cannot find substitutes easily for the product or services provided by this single supplier. And the supplier is freely to set the prices due to lack of competition. That means the supplier can charge you, say, based on the government legislation or based on the high investment cost initially they put into the product or services they provide. One example of monopoly is, say, water supplies, because for many countries, water supplies is probably under the government or a highly regulated industry for different participants to bid for the contract. So once the winner got the tender from the government to supply the waters in a community, then it's quite protected, and the new entrance barriers is very high because first of all, maybe it's highly regulated, or you have to invest a lot to develop your infrastructure to supply the waters in the community, which is not justified to do it by a single participant. So here is one example for monopoly. And next, we will discuss about oligopoly. The definition of oligopoly is here. Oligopolies are another form of imperfect market where the market is controlled by a small number of organizations. So here we are not talking about one organization or one company control the market. There are a few, maybe 2, 3, or 4, a small number of organizations control the market. While there is no precise number, but in general, we can say the numbers between 2 and 6 different firms for it to be classified or to be classed as an oligopoly. And for oligopoly, the key features will be discussed later. And right now, another term is very similar to oligopoly is duopoly. That means if only 2 firms dominate the markets, then it's called duopoly. But in general, we just summarize as oligopoly for our easy reference. So the key features of oligopoly or duopoly has 2 major key features. First, for new firms to enter into the market, it's quite hard for them to do it. Not say no or impossible, but it's difficult for them to go into the market. One example I would like to share is telecommunications. Okay, but just go through the second point before I share with you the examples of telecommunications. The second features of oligopoly is those oligopolies, they have significant influence over the prices of the goods and services that they sell. That means they cannot set the price and others follow the same. No, but they have a significant influence on the prices of goods and services. As I said, one example is telecommunications. It's quite hard to go into the telecommunication market because you have to invest a lot of money to build your network, the optical fibers or the network and any other infrastructure to provide the telecommunication services to say your mobile phone users, and only new firms in the market. And also some countries may have the government legislation on the telecommunications market. So for those telecommunication player in the market, I name them as oligopoly. They have very strong power to influence the prices of their services they sell to the customer. Another example of oligopoly is gas station. Gas station is mainly an energy company to supply their gas, maybe to the motors, to the cars. You cannot see a lot of different players in the gas station market because it incurred a lot of initial investments in the infrastructure they built. The second thing is about how to get your supply of oil, and also sell to the customer, because it's not easy for you to go, say, into the oil refinery to just get your gas to supply to your customer. It's not easy to do it. So it's another type of form of industry that you can see oligopoly in the real world. The third form of imperfect competition is monopolistic competition. Monopolistic competition is a type of market occurs when a business has many different competitors. It means much more than we discussed before, like oligopoly. Sometimes it's more than 10, or sometimes you cannot count how many players in that particular market. And for each player in the market, they offers a somewhat differentiated product. One example is, say, stationery. You can see a lot of market player or the suppliers for stationery market. They are selling pens, books, notebooks, whatever. And the product, they're not identical. They're not exactly the same. They have some differentiation from their competitors, so somewhat differentiated product. But pen or ruler, they are same. The function or the function of the ruler should more or less the same, but they are slightly different, like on the design or any other features of the product. So they have some differentiation. A lot of competitors in the stationery market. So, but in these situations, even satisfying a lot of players may be perfect information, but the products are not the same. So it's not the perfect competition. It's still under imperfect competition for the monopolistic competition because the products are not identical. The features of monopolistic competition: first, each business makes independent decisions about the product it offers and the price it charges. That means there's no significant or no one or two players can play a significant role in influencing the price. And no major barriers to enter or leaving the market. So like I just mentioned, like stationery market, there's no major barriers to go into it. And any participants, if they have a good ideas and can turn it into the products, they can go into the market without any government legislation. And the third key features of monopolistic competition is those products are differentiated between each business. As I said, like stationery, pen, pencil, ruler, notebooks, they are slightly different. Even they have same function of the product. So for each business, they have their own identity under this monopolistic competition. The last features under monopolistic competition is the participants, like the supplier, they pay advertising to stand out from the competition because they would like to let the customer know how differentiate, how unique of their products or how tailor-made of their products to their customers. So they would like to stand out and differentiate themselves in the competition. So they need to spend quite a lot of money in advertising their products or their services. So now it's question time. In this question, there are two statements, and your task is to identify which statements is or are correct. First statement: not all items sold or not all items being bought and sold in the market have to be identical for it to be perfect. So it's asking about the perfect competition conditions. And next, monopolies are a form of equilibrium. So you have to remember what is the definition of monopolies. And just a clue for you, we mentioned about these perfect competition conditions: large number of customers and suppliers, the product of services sold by all suppliers are identical, the perfect information and no barriers to entry the market or exit from it. So, and then you have to remember what is the definition of monopoly. Then I think you can highlight the answer here: option A, option B, option C, or option D in this question.